All right, good morning, everyone. All right, you can do better than that. It's Las Vegas. It's a party. Let's go. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Did everybody have a great night last night? All right. Well, welcome to ITAD Summit 2025. I want to, first of all, thank all of our sponsors and exhibitors for making this happen as you enjoy your breakfast and lunch and the receptions and things like that. Take a moment to recognize the logos that are kind of strewn about. Make sure you thank those guys for contributing, because without them, none of those trappings happen. So thank you to all of our sponsors and exhibitors. But most of all, thank you to all of you. By the end of the week, we'll have over 1,800 of you walk the halls of the ITAD Summit 2025, which is about 300 more than last year. So thank you all for coming out. Couple other notes real quick. So we sent out a couple of announcements, but I want to remind everybody that all of our events at the ITAD Summit require your badge. And I harp on that not because I want to be a jerk about it, but because I really don't want to have to send you back to the hotel this evening at the reception or anything like that. So please just make sure you have your badge with you and that it's around your neck. It helps you with your networking too. So make sure you have your badge. Silence your phones when you're in the sessions today, just out of courtesy to the speakers and those who put a lot of time into your presentations. And most importantly, tonight is a really special night at the ITAD Summit. We learned last year that the ITAD Industry Excellence Awards are a very, very, very hotly contested contest, and there's a lot of interest in those awards. And tonight we have 9 categories, up from 7 last year. We have 9 categories, so that means we'll be handing out 9 awards to your colleagues and peers in this amazing industry. So coming out to Old Red, if you go out the side where like Tiffany's and all that stuff is, it's literally right across the bridge. You'll see our sign as soon as you open the Bellagio doors, so you barely have to leave in this heat. So come out tonight, 7 to 10, 8 o'clock will be the awards ceremony. So without further ado, as we put together the agenda, we look for people that have been around, have wisdom to share, who are doing interesting things in the industry to share with you and to bring out as a keynote speaker. And this year, our keynote speaker decided that the stage is not his to hog, but rather to share. And so you've got some real icons of the industry that Todd's brought with him. But Todd has been in the industry for a very long time, somebody that I've come to respect both professionally and personally over the last several years, and somebody who, in his new role at CXtec, has really made some waves already in a short amount of 7 months in his role as CEO at CXtec. So with that, I want to introduce friend and colleague Todd Zegers to the podium to present 10 Commandments of ITAD.
Thank you, Derek. Appreciate it. We good? Can everybody hear me okay? We good? All right, mic check, 1, 2. Well, welcome to Las Vegas, ITAD Summit 2025. It's really, really cool to see the energy going on in this conference, and it's been great to see this thing grow. I think this is year 7 now, and I think I learned last night there was about 500 people that came to the first one, and as Daryl said, we're now pushing about 1,800 people coming to the conference, so it's really cool. I was humbled and honored to be up here and be offered the opportunity to give a keynote, and just as humbly honored and proud to share the stage with these fine gentlemen. I think between us, we probably have 120 or more years in the industry. John's got about 70. Paul's maybe 45-ish. So hopefully we can put some wisdom together and share with you guys the 10 Commandments of ITAD and what that can do for you personally, professionally, and with your business. So to kind of throw it back to Daryl and Robert, I really appreciate the event you guys have put on. It continues to be world-class, and it's getting better and better every year. It was great to see the check-in process go smoothly this year for the most part. That's a big improvement. But thank you to the rest of the ITAD Summit team as well putting this together. It's, again, a really great event. So a quick round of applause for those fine folks. And some of you may notice Robert's picture up here. That was his mug shot. He got busted when he was 22 at his buddy's bachelor party. I couldn't help but throw that one out there. And also want to thank them for, once again, putting on an event in the hottest place on earth and the hottest time of the year. It's pretty amazing. As a guy from Arizona, I would love to go from like 110 to maybe 87, not to 107, but I guess it's a break, and we're inside. But the good news is I learned last night that there's going to be another ITAD Summit next year. We're going to look to do it in the early part of next year, and we're going to do it in January. And to make sure we have the right balance, we've decided to do it in Buffalo, New York. So we want to make sure we change of clothes, a little bit different, not like I went to school, maybe wear the snowmobile or something. But I don't know where Paul is from LedMax, I apologize, but your loss of sponsorship, Yeti Cooler seems a little bit more fitting for the Buffalo conference. So having too much fun. So again, these gentlemen up here, if you don't know them, you've probably been living under a rock for a while. They've industry icons for quite some time. They've been competitors of mine, clients of mine, business partners of mine. I consider them friends of mine, so it's really cool to have them up here. And in the spirit of the Ten Commandments, I thought it'd be kind of apropos to call them the three wise men. You'll notice a lot of use of AI images, obviously, throughout this. Is kind of that day and age you do this. So I do want to point out, though, when you think about the three wise men, you think about Vegas, it is not these three wise men. For those who don't know, the three wise men shots, these nasty liquors combined into one, it's really terrible. I've done a few in my life, unfortunately, and recovered. But what was cool about this on the AI and using that is if you look at the red circle down there below, right? It's pretty easy to superimpose images on bottles of whiskey, but the fact that I went out and searched John Shegerian's all your social media and everything else, because ERI is the first, the best, the biggest, the only, everything like that, right? So I think it's
you have that right. That's good. Keep going.
So I couldn't help but throw that one up there. And I think in spirit of keeping it clean this morning, they're also my wolf pack, so we're going to do an electronic shot and just do that. And in case you're wondering what IYKYK is, I had no freaking idea what it was either. This is a little bit of a younger generation. I'm 50 now. Apparently it stands for if you know, you know. I was asking the marketing team, I'm like, is this just a placeholder? Are we going to put some real words here? But apparently this is a thing. So, all right, so moving on, I thought it would be kind of cool to share some of my experience going to trade shows. People who know me know I'm a big numbers guy. I love KPIs and kind of tracking how things are going along. And if you think about when you come here, there's different ways to get meetings and have a successful event and meet new partners, new customers, whatever that may be. So I think the first one is the meeting app scheduling, which I'm sure all of you are using. And much like the rest of you, you may have gotten 200 different messages from people who are paying the highest value for hard drives and memory and processing chips. Those of you doing that, by the way, you may want to change it up a little bit. It's not the best marketing. But the other great way to do it, which is a really good one too, is walking around the exhibit hall, right? A lot of folks are spending a lot of time and effort to bring their products and services, capabilities, their team members in here to talk to you about these great things they have going on. And I like to track kind of my app meetings. We're kind of around a 30-35%. I'm actually making some good partnerships. Going to the exhibit hall, it's a little bit higher. Obviously, you can walk around and be fairly targeted. Hey, that's a cool service over there. That's a cool product over there. It's a new shredder coming out I want to go get, right? So it's good there. But if you guys really want to know the secret sauce where you can get the best meetings, it's at the bar. Hands down, all day long, right? You spend an hour at the bar, you'll meet 5 or 6 people because Joe knows Steve, and Steve wants to work with you and this, that, and the other. And I kind of joke about that, and obviously a lot of this is liquor-based. But it's Vegas, I thought it was appropriate. But I can tell you right now, I feel like I've had more meaningful conversations and introductions inside the bar over these years to get to know people and really good partners. So hopefully that was a fun. By the way, this is all fake data. I'm just kind of making that up, but it seemed fun. So when we think about the 10 Commandments of ITAD and kind of how it applies to our industry, because obviously we all want to know, okay, we kind of know what's going on now. We want to know what's going to happen in the future. And how do we predict that? There's always a saying that understanding the past and how we got to where we are is always a good predictor and a good way to look at how we're going to go to the future. So I put together a quick little fun slide through here as far as the evolution of ITAD, looking at just the processes, how they've evolved over time. And everything kind of starts out when you're going to go pick up material at your customer's sites. You got chain of custody. Back in the day it was a handshake and then maybe a handwritten list of the serial numbers. Then you get more of a bill of lading that's got a little bit more detail. Then you're filling out an Excel spreadsheet and typing stuff in. Then that obviously morphed into your scanning that stuff, going into a spreadsheet. And I think where today's business really is, and the future of this is more around OCR, optical character recognition. So you're able to capture with a mobile tablet, whether it's your third-party logistics provider, your own trucks, going out there and scanning that and actually getting a picture, which is then capturing that data and pulling it back into your database. But it also gives you kind of that secondary level of defense to, where's Thomas at? Thomas Luther. He would like to say, everybody thinks their baby's beautiful, right? So customers, these are grade A, they're grade B, they're really great, and you get pictures and say, Mr. Customer, no, they're not. We have proof of it right here. So it's always kind of good to have that little secondary piece of protection. So you've got chain of custody figured out. Now it's time to move the stuff. And this is an IYKYK moment for everybody under 50. This is the OG of ITAD, the old Sanford and Son, going out there picking up stuff, the junk hawker, right? But that's evolved over time into actually a real pickup truck, maybe with a lid that locks, and you got real trucks going in and out with a third-party driver, professional guy, and companies like Iron Mountain obviously have their trucks and vans all over with alarm systems and tracking capabilities. But I think, the wave of the future in logistics will be at some point when customers really understand the importance of chain of custody from the time it leaves their site back into a processing center, is making sure that's tracked very thoroughly. You've got breadcrumbs, you've got geofencing, understanding that, and an alarm system on those. So I think that will be the future of the ITAD piece. So now we've got the stuff, it's coming in, gets into our operations, and we've all seen this picture, and I saw Daniel Puckett, where are you at? I don't know if your dad's here, but I think it was, I'd be mid-2000s, maybe 2005, 2006, when Jim Puckett did the whole expose on 60 Minutes to really expose this to the world. And I would argue half of us, or if not more, wouldn't even be in this room today if it weren't for that, right? It really kind of woke the world up to what was going on with e-waste and why things needed to change. So it was a very powerful kind of shot in the arm for our industry to really get there. And just to kind of level aside, if you look at where we're at today and how professionalized this industry has become versus the Sanford and Son of the old, and where we're going using AI and technology and everything else, it's really cool to see. So that went from the Goodwill parking lot, your community e-waste drives, and it went into someone's garage for processing. This is my house in Mesa, Arizona, where I used to wipe hard drives when I first got in this business, and you can imagine how hot it got in my garage when you're wiping stacks and stacks of Dell GX260s or whatever they may have been back then. Of course, I'm handwriting the serial numbers. But it's obviously evolved into putting stuff into warehouse, and I got a little bit more modernized. And by the way, I found these pictures online, so if this is anybody's warehouse, I apologize. But this is a little bit more of what you see in the ITAD space. It's a little bit more laid out differently, things flow. And when you start looking at the larger warehouses of ITAD companies, you see a lot more refurbishment going on. Obviously, you have to have a lot of scale and volume to hit operations like this. But I think the wave of the future will be really around using AI, sortation, conveyance, robotics, filing of devices, et cetera. And I'll talk in a little bit in the next slide about kind of how I see that working. So you get into device processing, and this is the absolute best way to process stuff. I'm sure you've all seen this movie Office Space. And in that garage, I had baseball bats, and I assure you I crushed plenty of printers. I recycled them properly afterwards, of course. But I thought it was a fun one to throw in there. But we all know the old hammer and hard drive trick and the drills, and we'd like to think that doesn't happen today, but I'm guessing in some places it still does. But hey, listen, I guess it's secure. But we moved into, obviously, the software erasure, because we're here to try to refurbish and resell and reuse as much devices that we get in through our factories. And then you start looking at automation, right? I think, in today's world of kind of the secondary market of electronics, you look at mobile phones and tablets, and now you're seeing really kind of cool automation around laptops. But this will be the wave of the future at some point. The trick is with our business is you have so many different types of widgets. Trying to build robots for all these different widgets is really, really tough, because you have different sizes, different form factors, et cetera. It's not really that easy to do. And then you think about IoT devices, right? IoT was a big thing, call it 2018, 2019, before COVID hit. The proliferation of all these electronic devices going out into our client environments that we haven't really started to see yet, right? But those things are going to start expiring at some point. You're going to get all kinds of widgets coming back in that are things you've never seen before. You won't know what to do with it. How do you clear the data from it? How can you sell it potentially? Are there lithium-ion batteries in it? I go to John's operation, you see toothbrushes coming in there. What a pain in the you-know-what to try to get batteries out of a Sonicare toothbrush, right? So it's going to get more complex as we go along. But listen, complexity actually adds to opportunity for us, right? And then you get into refurbishment, so the old fluff and buff, get the dust bunnies out, clean it up, clean up the ports, put the orange glow, whatever the cleaning solution is there, and sell it. And that was kind of the way of the past. And now you see more around, if I have 5 companies selling the same laptop on Amazon, how am I going to differentiate myself? You really need to create a much cleaner and refurbished product. So you're seeing more of this paint booth automation for both laptops. At CXtec, we actually do it on our Cisco devices, on our VoIP phones. We don't play in the laptop space. But you're seeing more and more of this to try to take this old device up to a really pristine standard to up that customer experience. And then you think about remarketing. There's the old swap meet back in the day. I'm sure we've probably seen those in our time. And then you move into the pawn shops. And a company called Tiger Direct back in the day, I remember they had the mail order catalog, and they were probably one of the first ones that at least I recall that was selling refurbished devices through mail order, which then moved to online. And of course, everybody knows this little company called eBay that I would imagine 99.9% of the people in this room are using or about to use. Then Amazon comes along with a little bit bigger. And the cool thing I've been seeing changing in this industry is platforms like Geared and Equipped and these other platforms where you can now take your inventory, upload it into this aggregation tool, and you can push it out to all these different marketplaces. You can get the algorithms to drive your pricing and demand structures to really help out with that. They help you out with customer service and a lot of different things. So, e-commerce is going to be really evolving, and the interesting thing will be is at some point we'll all kind of have this stuff, so what's going to really make us different in the future is the big question. And then you look at distributors, right? I came from Ingebretsen. We have a big ITAD business there. It's still going strong today. TD Synnex has had PC wholesale for many, many years selling refurbished products, and they're getting more in the space. And you see OEMs getting into this space. And for years and years, we tried to get the OEMs to try to kind of adopt this, but they never wanted to do it because they wanted to sell new all day long, right? And now the customers are saying, hey, listen, I want used product. I need you to sell me used product. And if you don't, I'm going to go get it somewhere else. So you're seeing the OEMs finally wake up and start getting into this space, which a lot of them aren't going to have their own factories, which is a great opportunity for everybody in the room to go out and try to partner with those folks if they have the right capabilities. But HP's done a huge job investing in this space, putting a lot of money behind this and growing this program. They want to give that customer that experience of a new feeling HP laptop with an HP warranty. And I think you'll see a lot of the other OEMs follow suit, and I'm sure some of them probably already are. And then you get into recycling, and again, this is the last thing we want to see, but we all know it still happens. I think we've done a decent job in the U.S. of trying to corral this and stop it from going overseas in places it shouldn't be. I think the bigger problem is more now in the developing countries that are shipping to other developing countries or just keeping the stuff internally, and it's just not a good thing, right? So obviously now you've got these big shredders and all this cool apparatus, and the other thing that's really started to evolve I've seen in the last year or so is obviously the focus on rare earths, because we know we need so much rare earths to go build all these AI chips and everything else that's going to be the infrastructure of our future. So magnet recovery from hard drives was never even a thing up until a couple of years ago. So you're seeing that evolution coming. Obviously, you get the copper choppers and the refining of copper. We've seen copper tariffs going up and down, and Trump just changed his mind again. So that's going to constantly change, and obviously precious metals, recovering gold. And if you think about the circuit boards of old were this big with X amount of gold in it, now they're this tiny with a tiny bit of gold. So the amount of volume you got to put through these machines is really significant. And I tell John and Eric all the time, I'm like, it's easier, I wouldn't say it's easy, it's easier for a downstream recycler to go up into ITAD than it is for an ITAD player to go down, because the capital investments, the compliance, everything that goes along with operating this machining is really intense, and it's not something I would ever want to do myself. So the process is pretty much complete now, so you're going to get your reports. So, there's the old school reports of, hey, here's how much you weighed, here's how much we're paying you guys, and you moved into more of the true ITAD reporting, where you want line-by-line itemized detail of the serial number and asset tag, so the IT asset manager can get it off their books and all that kind of fun stuff. And obviously now you're seeing more and more where the customers are using ServiceNow or Aerosint or Snow or any IT asset management platform out there. They want that API feedback into there, so they're not searching for spreadsheets to go into John's portal, but maybe they use Eric in Singapore, so they got to go to Eric's portal now. They want all that stuff in that central pane of glass, which is really a differentiator. And then you think about environmental benefits reporting, right? We all kind of used this EPA warm calculator for many, many years. It was kind of the best thing available that was free, so we all used it and made our own kind of pictures out of it and had fun. But that's now evolving, and like with eStewards is partnering up with Bloom to develop this new calculator that they put out on the market. We've adopted it. I know several folks in the room have adopted it as well, but we're seeing some good evolution there. And then really to bookend it all, you think about customer service and how we interact with our customers. This business, as we know, is very people-heavy, both back in the warehouse as well as in the front office. And you think about how AI is going to change that. And it's not that AI is going to replace our people. AI is going to augment our people and help them do more. And you think about just from the sales side of our business, if you're going to try to go out to market to try to recruit new business, if you have someone on the phone picking up a phone call, trying to cold call 100 calls a day to call someone to pick up the phone, good luck, right? The world has changed completely. Now it's almost like if the four of us are competing to go win one customer, what are our AI bots doing out there competing against each other to get that lead, which then obviously comes to a human. Then we have to show our stuff and go win that business. But there's going to be so many different things that are going to transform this space over the next couple of years, and it's pretty exciting stuff. But if you're not on that train now, highly recommend getting on it quickly, because if you're not, you're going to get left behind fairly quickly. All right, so we made it to the 10 Commandments of ITAD. Hopefully I'm not going too fast, losing my voice a little bit. But it was interesting when I started trying to just build this cover slide, I plugged it into ChatGPT, and this was the output it came out with, right? And if you look at what these commandments are that ChatGPT said, they're not wrong, right? Those are 10 fundamental principles of operating a good ITAD business and running your show and making sure that you can continue to stay relevant and grow your business. But I would argue that as much as you guys all love to come into Vegas, you didn't pay a bunch of money to buy a ticket and come here and just something you plug into ChatGPT. You want to hear from these fine young gentlemen over here to get some of their wisdom and experience. So I put together something out of Zegers GPT. I had to have a little fun with that. And these guys were razzing me about giving their AI photos up here. So they said, I got to take Moses and Zegers and put it together. And I don't know about the curly locks, but it's pretty eerie to look at that picture. I actually was doing that with my daughter and son next to me, and they got really, really creeped out, and it was, I got to change it. I can't even look at it anymore. So commandment number 1, right? Your customer is your God. None of us would be in this room right now if we didn't have customers. They're the ones that pay the bills. And I think there's a couple ways to look at who your customers are, because if obviously you're in sales and you're talking to the end user who's servicing you, that's one thing. But if I'm running an operation, the sales team is my customer because I'm servicing them and making sure their end user customer is taken care of. So I think customer is a very universal term that's used throughout the organization that needs to be paid attention to. And you think about Amazon and how obsessed they are with the customer experience, and that's why they've been so successful. And I tell my team all the time, whatever we do internally, whatever department you're in, think about it. How do we Amazonize this and really kind of give that amazing experience for everybody within the organization? This one is you can't get to the top alone. Using partners in our industry is really, really critical, which again is why coming to this show is so critical. I think when this first got going, and I was at Ingram, I'm like, I really don't want to go hang out at a trade show and go talk to a bunch of my competitors. That was the wrong way to look at it, right? There's so many other supporting products and services and capabilities, and even guys like these who I partner with today to do business with, right? So it's not coming to this place figuring out who my competitors are, it's who are my potential partners that can lift up my business. So whether you have your own trucks everywhere, and that's great in doing logistics, but guess what? You're still going to ship something out on FedEx to a customer that's going to be buying your product, and that's part of that customer experience. So you're only as good as your worst partner. This is an interesting one. Speak well of your company and those who stand with you. You may notice I'm wearing orange Air Jordans today. They're high tops. Love Air Jordans, hate orange, hate high tops. But it's our brand, so I'm going to go with it, right? And I think it's important if you think about your future and the company you work for today, like you really got to get behind the brand and the image and be part of the team that wants to grow that business. There's nothing worse than hearing people talking ill about their own company they're working for. It's like, listen, if you don't like it, maybe it's time for you to leave. Right? Go find somewhere where you feel like you're welcome or you feel like the culture is a good fit for you. And I'll tell you, we're going through a big hiring spree right now, and the second I get on an interview with someone, they start bad-mouthing their current employer or former employer, it's over. Because guess what? When they come here, we're going to have problems too, right? And they're going to do the same thing about us. That's just kind of like the cancer that I don't want to insert into our organization. So I think it's a really big thing to think about and remember it, so I put remember the shoes. And own your time or it owns you. This is very personal to me, is I ran the corporate rat race for a long time, and I kind of said, I'm going to change my direction. I started a consulting business a couple years ago, and guess what? I was right back in the same place doing conference calls from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. And I said, this has got to stop. When I joined here at CXtec, I got very deliberate about my calendar. I block off the first half of Monday, the back half of a Friday, and I actually have time to think. I can think about how I start off my day, and I don't get Sunday night anxiety leading into Monday that week about what I got to do that morning. I know that I've got a block of time to get things done, and I know on Friday when the day closes, I can look back past my week, take notes, what went wrong, what went right, what do I need to do, and then what do I need to do on Monday, right? There is no substitute for time to think, and for the CEOs and owners of businesses in here, you got to make sure you're spending time on your business and not in your business. I can't stress that enough, and until you actually do it, you're never going to understand the benefit of it, so highly recommend that. Build your network of mentors and coaches. Again, I had a great run at Ingram Micro. They hired business coaches for me. It was great. They invested in me. They sent me to different places to get educations. That was lovely, and a lot of those people are still mentors for me today. I currently work with 2 different coaches. I have a female executive coach and a male executive coach. I like to get different perspectives and different way the worlds work, and each one of those brings different things to the table. So don't underestimate the value of working with someone or talking to someone that has done something before that you want to go do, right? Why would you want to go reinvent the playbook? It goes back to, like, if I'm going to drive from here back to Arizona, am I going to use Google Maps, or am I going to try to find my way there myself, right? I'd rather get Google Maps and get the most efficient way to get there as soon as possible. And this is a big one, listing up the industry together. If I had a nickel for every time I heard someone in here say that company is shady, I wouldn't even be here right now. I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere getting served drinks with a straw and little umbrellas on it, because I would have made that much money off of every single one of those nickels. I think we got to remember that the rising tide lifts all ships, and how important that is, and almost treat this like a sports game. Like, if you lose the game, shake their hand and say good job, and they move on. And listen, of course there's some shady stuff going on here and there. It does happen. It's just part of the deal. But my message to my team when we lose a deal is, okay, listen, we lost to them, but why? What do we need to do better? Do we need to have a better proposal to them? Do we need to have better pricing? Is our cost too high? Okay, if our cost is too high, how do we drive those costs down? Are we seeing this type of loss regularly? Right? So we got to be really, really good with each other to make sure that it's okay if we lose a deal, but take that on yourself. Don't put that off on someone else. The next one on here is leadership is a verb and not a noun. Some of you may have seen where you've got the kind of the king sitting on the chariot and whipping it, and it says boss above that. And you got the next graphic is the same guy, but he's out in front pulling with his team, right? And I think the Pope Francis had a really good quote that a shepherd should smell like a sheep. Just sitting back in a corner office, if you're a leader in this room, is not going to do it. You got your people to lead with you and follow with you based on permission, not on just the fact that you have a high title. So it's important. I got to say, I believe that's Stan Van Gundy. For a short, fat, white guy, he's got pretty good handles. It's pretty incredible. I wish I had that kind of skills. And this is another one. I was talking with Eric about this a lot earlier, is I think about, I've been in this, I don't know, 25 years or whatever else, and I look at all the deals I've done when I was in sales. And of course, when you're in sales, you want to make money because that's how you make your living. And you almost don't want to say no to anything, but you wind up chasing a lot of these deals for that quick buck that you may win it, you may have it for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, but 5 years down the road, that deal wasn't really a great fit and it wasn't good for you culturally, so now it's not even around anymore. So, you have to kind of play the long game and make sure whatever you're bringing to the market, whatever your skills are and who you want to work with are the ones you bring into your fold, because long term, that's how you're going to build your house on rock versus building it on sand. And this is another hot topic. This kind of ties to that one, right? How many times in this room have we lost to someone giving it away for free, right? It happens all the time. And I would tell you that I've done plenty of free deals in my life, but it doesn't scale. Because there's always someone right around the corner that's willing to do it for free, and they're a little bit closer, or they can do it faster, or maybe the guy's going to give them $100 or whatever that is. So free doesn't scale, and I would tell you, if you're a business owner and you're looking to build your business and free is your strategy, it's going to be really hard to sit down with a private equity firm and show them a contract that you just do everything for free. There's no value in your business. Your business is basically going to get sold for free, at least in my opinion. The last one is own your sandbox before trying to build a new beach. My team is looking at me, laughing at me right now because I am horribly guilty of this. This is really about focus, right? What are you really good at? If you're really good at selling ITAD services in Kentucky to hospitals, double down on that, right? And if that continues and you kind of soak up all there, what are the adjacent markets you can move into to focus on what you're really good at and where you win? Too many times in my consulting days, I would be working with a company who was a downstream recycler, and they're trying to say, we do global ITAD, we do data center takeouts. I'm like, okay, great. How are you going to service China, Brazil, Philippines, right? All these countries that are super complex, and you have to have legal entities set up and everything else. So it's really important to understand what your sandbox is and try to focus there and win there, and then look for those adjacent sectors next to you that you can really tap into that will add synergistic value to what you're doing with your clients. Okay, sorry. So I'm kind of in there. So what I wanted to do, I'm going to kick off, and we're going to go around and do some panelist interviews here if you will and get some feedback, is, I look at there's kind of 4 hot topics in our space right now. The one on the far left is industry recovery, right? We're all waiting. When is this going to happen? Like, COVID was so great. We all got the sugar high, and it's been like this slow crash over time. And I still have the opinion that, procurement compression happened so much in 2021 when the supply chain got refreed up that all these people bought the stuff in 2021. There's no such thing as a 3-year refresh. Some customers do, but very few don't, or very few do that. So you think about 5 years on top of 2021, that puts us into next year, right? So I think we're starting to see within CXtec is a little bit more of that kind of tailwind is starting to pick up a little bit, right? But my prediction is still like it's going to be early to mid next year before we get a full recovery. So keep that in mind, and listen, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's tomorrow. But I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how these gentlemen are focusing on AI inside their businesses, also looking at the tariff situation. Oh, Trump just changed it again. And then the export situation, right? You got the Basel Convention with plastics, you got the Malaysia shutdown, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm done talking. That's good. All right, thank you. Thank you. So these are my commandments put up on these tablets just to kind of make it easy and keep us up there first. And John, I wanted to start out with you and talk about number 2. We talk about this a lot in our conversations. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Todd, and I think he did a great job, everybody. Let's give it for Todd again.
Thank you.
He didn't want us to bring this up, but, on Saturday night he's going to be opening for David Spade on the Strip. So, he loves comedy. Yeah, you can't get to the top alone. That's true. The only thing you remember that I say today is greatness is in the agency of others. So when I say others, I mean the people who work with you and the people you surround yourself with, also the people you partner with, and your board of directors, and the people also you surround yourself with as mentors, as Todd brought up earlier. With regards to others in terms of the people you surround yourself with at the company that you build or the team that you're leading, You hire the best, you pay them really, really well, generously compensate them, and take great care of them. And you create what I call, because I'm 62 years old and I'm a big fan of the Eagles, the Hotel California methodology of hiring and retaining great people. You want people to check in, and unless you want them to leave, you want them to never check out. I have 30 leaders at my company. They've all been with me on an average of 15 years, the top 30 leaders. Kevin Dillon, who's sitting in the back row, right in back of Todd at the back there, has been with me 25 years. We've been together 25 years. You think about all the great leaders in sports, Belichick, Jackson, Saban. They create great teams around them, and then they focus on winning. They focus on the mission at hand. They don't have chaos. They don't have people creating drama. They really focus on winning. And that's how we've built ERI, brick by brick. With regards to your board of directors, it's easy to surround yourself with just a bunch of friends or cronies or people who are going to mirror what you say. Better to surround yourself with a board of directors who have wisdom and varied interests and diverse points of view. For instance, at ERI, we have J.B. Straubel on our board of directors. He's the co-founder of Tesla, one of the most valuable companies on this planet. He's a Stanford engineer who literally, before I ever met him, I asked one of his employees, tell me what I'm walking into. And he said, do you understand, John, what his nickname at Tesla was over the last 18 years? I said, no. He said his nickname was the Legend. I said, why is that? He goes, Elon Musk gets all the credit because he's in the media every day and he raised tons of money. But J.B. Straubel was the one who designed how the cars were built, how the cars were produced, and how things were going to work operationally at Tesla. He was the only co-founder that Elon Musk ever talks about. He sits on our board of directors. To have access with a person of that quality and who's been through so much and achieved so much at a young age has been a huge benefit to ERI, not only because of who he is and what he knows, but he also then went out to create Redwood Materials, which became a partner of ERI's, which is the largest lithium-ion battery company in the world. Agency, greatness is in the agency of others. Ron Gonen sits on our board, runs the top circular fund in the world. He's been friends of mine 21 years. Alcoa, one of the great aluminum brands on this planet, and an LSM&M, who's the Koo family. It's the LG family from South Korea, who works with us directly. Greatness is in the agency of others. Take care of the people in your life, your mentors, your colleagues, your board of directors, and everyone you surround yourself with, and they'll take care of you, and they'll take care of the brand that you're trying to build.
That's great feedback. And true to your brand, you're the best. Eric, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we can't do it alone. Yeah, I think, yeah. So, TESS, one of the larger ITADs out there in the world, we've got partnerships all over the world, and we've got our own operations all over the world, but we still have to have people that we work with, whether it's logistics or other ITAD agencies, a lot of on-site work we partner with, and it's so, to me, like the message from where I sit is no matter how big you are, you're still not going to do it alone. You still have to have other relationships, and kind of to what you said earlier, Todd, we can look at each other competitively, or we can look at each other differently. And to me, there's opportunities for us to partner. We can compete maybe in some spaces over here and partner over here. It doesn't have to be so binary. So to me, the partnerships are critical to success, and we see that every day in our space. And to John's point, from a team perspective, we are our people. If a lot of us are honest with ourselves, there's lots of things in our business that aren't what we'd like them to be, and the deficiencies we have in our businesses are shored up by the people that we employ to do the jobs that they do. So none of us are perfect, and the people mask a lot of those imperfections.
People putty.
Yeah.
Call it people putty. Paul, what are your thoughts?
I have some thoughts. Hello? Oh, there we go. I moved my mouth a little closer. So one of the things that I realized very early on when I started the company in 2002 was, you know, I had worked in a similar business for about 10 years, and you know, a couple of very strong leaders in the company. And I'm not an entrepreneur at heart. I have no family teachers or throughout my family. I had no entrepreneurs. And one of the things I learned very quickly is I knew the business. I was good at business, but I tended to be a little aggressive and maybe a little bit of a cowboy, and got myself in trouble a couple times early on. And I remember talking to my friend one day, and I said, you know, one thing I realized? He said, what? I said, I need to surround myself with people who are going to protect me from myself. And he goes, if I can do that, I think I'm going to be okay. And that's what I've done over the years, is I you know, surround myself with people who are different than me, who have, you know, more talent and more passion about what they're doing, and those are the ones that rise up to the ranks. But you have to be humble. You have to exercise humility all the time and be willing to accept and acknowledge the fact that this person doesn't have nearly as much experience as I do, but they're right. They're right, and I'm gonna follow their leadership on that. And that's probably the thing that I've learned the most about, you know, the people that I hire. Hire the best, but let them do their job. Delegate, you know, let go of control, and be humble with yourself and realize when they are right, and go with what seems to make the most sense to you based on looking at all of that.
Yeah, well said. So interestingly enough, I just realized this is the problem with ChatGPT. Number 9 and number 10 are the same. Number 9 is supposed to be free doesn't scale. And Eric and I were talking about this at dinner last night. Eric, I'd love you to give your thoughts on that statement.
Yes, it's crazy that in 2025 we're still talking about free. And so however many years of experience we have, you know, 80, 150, 200, whatever it is up here. So we've all seen free. We've been in the history of free. So in 2005 or whatever, or 2006, I think is when I started, there was a lot of free out there. That was what we were competing with. And you know, the guy in the van, a lot of us probably drove those vans, you know, kind of back then. And that was part of the industry. And so kind of on one hand, it's great that a lot of that's diminished. A lot of customers understand the value and the investments that people have made to move beyond free in it, but again, it still exists, and so it's insane. I ran across some deals in the last couple of weeks, particularly on the data center side of the business, where we're competing against free. And to me, there's multiple problems with free, and you know, kind of preaching to the choir on all accounts. But one is it's a very misleading business model because it's not free, and it's a way to kind of commercially mask what you're doing, and you know, people that are doing free ultimately make better margins sometimes than people that don't. So it's a kind of a disingenuous way to engage with your customer, I think. And then from our side, you know, in terms of we're all in this business, what we do has value. Many people in this room own a P&L. You understand the costs, and you're signing off on these costs all the time. It's expensive to run some of these businesses, and so security and compliance, you know, cybersecurity. We've had to make a lot of investments. Probably in the last 2 years, we're probably spending not nearly what we should have a couple of years ago, and it's gone to several $1 million a year in cybersecurity now, just because of the kind of customers we have to deal with. So there is a cost, and by putting free out there, it devalues what we do. So if the shoes that Todd's wearing, if they were free, I wouldn't want them nearly as much if I had to pay $200 for them. So you have to put a
I'll
value
sell them to you.
on.
I'm done with them after this.
You have to put a value on what you do in it, and so everybody that offers free, you know, kind of is an enemy of the state as far as I'm concerned. It devalues what we're doing as an industry.
Paul, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's a problem you know, and I think part of the problem is a lot of outside money has gotten into our business, and I think money is influencing like how the industry is growing, and there's too much free stuff being given away by some ITAD companies. And it makes it harder for the new guy trying to start out to get to that level where he can compete. And you know, we've gone into relationships with typically when the larger size companies on the supply side. You start up, things are fine, you're doing good business, and all of a sudden, you know, you find yourself engaging in an auction every week, and you find out you give your absolute best price, and you lose the auction. And it's like, we know we were doing that one for free ourselves, and we still lost. And you scratch your head and you wonder, why is that happening? And unfortunately, I think, you know, because I think outside money has gotten involved in this industry. I think they look at this industry and they say, it's a business service. these companies get free inventory and they sell it and they get a percentage of it. What's better than that? That's an incredible industry. So like, let's get in. And a lot of people buy it. And a lot of the people who are initially concerned about, e-waste and helping the global environment problem is, they start looking at the money and they want to do an auction. And I don't know if they have incentive compensation or what, but they do these auctions and they award the material to the highest bidder. They're an auction company. So that's a problem. I hope that's going to change. I'm doing things I can to kind of speak up about it to make it change. But that's a real problem, and I hope to see it diminish over time.
Thank you. Your thoughts, John?
I agree with, you guys have been in this business. We've all been in this thing a long time. The great news about free is that it's a certain road to a bad outcome. So we've seen the private equity money come into this industry and be bamboozled by charlatans and frauds that claim to know better than all of us, and not only go at the free model, how about the pay model? Instead of charging for the services that we all offer here and work hard to create, they don't only just give it away for free, they say, no, we could buy our way to success. And all those guys have gone away. So the great news is what we call irrational behavior has lessened and lessened year after year. Now, of course, it still exists, but as the industry continues to mature and grow, the free or the buy model has continued to diminish, and that allows the great brands like Paul runs, like Eric runs, Todd, like you run, to rise to the top.
It can't last. It won't last.
That's right.
Yeah. But I think what Eric said, though, about value, right? We as collectively as an industry need our end user customers to understand what we do is a valuable service. We're not just Sanford and Son, right? Showing up to take out the stuff. But listen, I think the low barriers to entry for a guy to go process stuff in his garage like I did when I first got started, that's still there, right? I was servicing a major healthcare client in Phoenix, Arizona, right? They didn't even come look at my garage. So that time has changed a little bit. But the private equity one is an interesting one because they come in guns blazing, they see the sexy market, and no one understands how hard this business really is, right? Because it's complex. We kind of get undercredited for how complex it is. So that's kind of a good segue into number 8 about building your business the right way on a foundation that lasts. And Paul, you've built a very successful business over the years, and if you look at the building blocks of your business, what are some of your secrets to success and focusing on the right customers for you?
Yeah, so at some point, thinking about the business, by the way, I had to get out of the business because of health reasons for a while, but I've been back since last October. And when I came back in and was thinking about, okay, what's important in terms of the business, I learned. And what I came to conclude is that there are, in my mind, this is opinion, not fact, there are 4 pillars of a successful ITAD company, and you gotta be really good on all 4 of these. And this is in the order of priority, which is some people are not going to agree with. But to me, number 1 is process, number 2 is systems, number 3 is people, and number 4 is places. And some people I've talked to about this said, wait a minute, how can people not be number 1? And people are incredibly important. But our business is so process-oriented. There's so many variables. There's so many things that can go wrong that if you don't have all of them identified and written down in something that you can teach someone else, you're going to struggle. You're going to have a lot of problems. Systems, it's like we went through a period of time recently where we had some systems problems. I'll just say that. And it crippled us. We got through it. But it was a serious problem. And all of these awesome people and this great process, we couldn't execute because our system sucked, The people piece, that kind of speaks for itself. I mean, we all know how important people are and surrounding yourself with the right people and constantly looking for the best people. That's huge. It's huge. And then the last one is, places, where, this is a global economy, and your clients and constituents are going to be all over the place, and you can't be everywhere all the time. So you got to pick the spots that you want to be, and then find someone else who does what you need to have done in that place. It's going to be your partner. A lot of partnerships are required in this business. But those are the four things that I think about from a 50,000-foot view of what makes an ITAD company solid.
Hey, and by the way, I don't know where Daryl is, but we would like to take questions during this time as well. I forgot to mention that. So, we want to try to make this a little bit interactive. So as, one of these gentlemen finishes up, if you guys want to raise your hand and ask a question, I think Theodore or someone has a microphone we can bring to you. So Eric, what are your thoughts?
There's a lot of different answers to that question, I think, and none of them are wrong. Just think about my own personal experience in the company that I work with, Tess. So we kind of did things reverse of a lot of people geographically. We started in Asia, built a fairly robust business there, and then kind of went eastward or westward, depending on the direction you're going from there. And so for us, that was, I don't know that it was intentional. It was kind of the way the business grew. But looking back in retrospect, it was very important for us to focus on an area and be very good and develop a very competently structural business there that was robust with the right customers, and then kind of expand from there. The other thing I think about is customers in it. So one of something, it's kind of funny what sticks with you over the years. Somebody told me a long time ago, the most important piece to anybody's profitability is the customers they choose to work with. And so the word being choose. So you have to be very deliberate about the customers that you work with, and it kind of goes back to free not being free. So choosing the right customers that fit your values, fit what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's geographically, could be vertically, could just be culturally, and I think it's very important. If we look back, I've only been with the business 10 years. The business is about 20 years old, but if I look back 20 years, a lot of the customers are still there. And some of the customers that we won 10 years ago, many of them are still here. So I'm sure that's the same for many of you as well. So the customers that you do win, they tend to be good customers. They tend to stick around a long time for the most part. And to me, it's very important to be deliberate about those to make sure they fit what you're trying to accomplish as a business.
Agreed. John, thoughts?
Well, of course, I agree with Eric and Paul. With us at ERI, to just take it down another road, we have built our success on what we call relentless innovation. We just keep taking our profits and pouring it back into more technology and more innovation. So we have spent north of $30 million in the last 3 years just on AI, robotics, and software development to improve everything that we do in terms of battery recycling. We have one of the largest alkaline battery recycling operations in the United States now. That's closed loop with no emissions. In our ITAD business, we've improved all our processes and procedures using AI and robotics, and the same thing on our material resource side. So just constantly focusing on innovation every year and not resting on our laurels has been sort of our trademark quality in terms of how to really build a brand that lasts.
I think a good segue is number 10 here about owning your sandbox before trying to build a new beach, right? So Eric, you talk about where your clients were, you get in certain markets to serve them because they have their needs, and then when you take that core business, because listen, we all know you can't just do basic or pure ITAD anymore. All of our customers want more. I think Craig Boswell from Hobby said it well. It's about VTAD, value-added ITAD, and I would argue it's been around for a long time. But when you think about if you're going to make an investment as SK Test to go into some adjacent spaces, like what are some of the things you're looking for, and how do you model that out?
I think the first thing is to be honest with yourself. So Bill Parcells, dating myself, had a quote that you are what your record says you are. So no matter how many close losses you had, your record's still your record. And so kind of modified for business, you are what your revenue says you are. And so you need to have a look at yourself, understand where you really make your money, and that's who you are. A lot of us say we do a lot of things, and if we're honest with ourselves, that's probably not true in lots of cases. Maybe you do all of it, but if, your revenue is kind of 90% in one bucket, then that's kind of who you are. So to me, you have a brutal look at yourself and really understand who you are and what your strengths are. Make sure that you've built a moat around that you've got the right technology, the right people, the right structure in place, and then it kind of goes back to the foundation that lasts, that you build upon that. For me, services outside of ITAD or kind of whatever your core business is in this room are critical. I think this market is going to get kind of, nichier and nichier, I guess, to use some bad English. Like customers aren't going to want to work with pure play ITADs, I don't think, 5 years from now. I think they're going to want people that do more in it. So I don't think it's, just a revenue play or margin play to get into other spaces. I think it's the health of the business. I think you have to do that to service your customers in the way you need to. Certainly, call it the Global 2000, Fortune 500 customers in it. So it's business critical to do that, but you have to have the right foundation that you can build on in terms of your core services and your team and everything before you do that. Types of services, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of things you can get into. For me, it's on site, whatever it is, it's got to be on site. So, you know, as proud as all of us are of our businesses out there, if we're honest, and again, kind of being honest with ourselves, it's kind of one of my key tenets in it. A lot of our customers don't look at it strategically. They may be great relationships, they may be great partners in it, but you know, we're kind of at the end of the line, and we're the people that take stuff away. Again, if we're honest with ourselves in it. So if you get on site, I think you're a much more strategic partner. You're not the victim that maybe you are in our space. You have more control over the assets. You have more vision, more transparency over those assets in it. So to me, services are critical. You can argue what the right services are, but it's got to be upstream and it's got to be at the customer location, I think.
Agreed. So Paul, as you're diversifying your services, what's your approach to that?
Yeah, see, this is an important one to me because I'm that guy who likes to chase the shiny object and like, robotics, ITAD, hey, let's get into that. And what I did last October when I came back is I decided that I'm getting old. I can't do this by myself. I need to surround myself with people who are going to protect me from myself. So there's 7 people, including me, who are on a video call every day at 11 a.m. East Coast time, and we talk about what's going on in the business. What do we need to do? What are the problems we're dealing with right now? What are the opportunities that we're pursuing right now? And I always push back. I always started out and I encourage people, I beg people to push back. Tell me why I'm wrong, tell me why I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong half the time. Please tell me, speak up. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. And same thing, when someone pushes forward on something, I'm always, no, that's not a good idea, let me tell you why. Again, oftentimes I'm wrong and we end up doing it, but I think that kind of exchange between yourself and a group of people that are the senior people in your company can make things a lot easier for you, and I think it goes a long way, and it protects you from sometimes yourself.
Listen, I agree, and I think I've told my team for years I don't want yes men or yes women in my organization. Just because I have a title doesn't mean you can't challenge me, and there's a reason why you're in that seat. If you're in engineering, I want you to challenge my thesis and tell me why this won't work from an engineering perspective. I think, you know, John, this is probably a good segue into, you know, leadership as a verb and not a noun. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's absolutely correct, Todd. I go back to being a little 7th grader, and we were asked to bring in our favorite poem and recite it at school. And my big hero when I was a kid was Muhammad Ali's. And I couldn't really remember much. People came in and they memorized these poems that went on for 10 minutes, and I have no idea how they did it. So I remember his shortest poem, as he calls it, the shortest poem ever written in the world. It's real simple. Me, period, we. That's what leadership comes down to. People are going to follow you, and they're going to look at you in a greater lens. And how you act, how you behave, and how you show up every day and put the work in is what they're going to mirror. If you're dogging it, they're going to dog it. If you put it out there and leave everything on the playing field, that's what they're going to do. And that's what leadership comes down to. It just comes down to, if you're going to really want to be a leader, it's just not having a fancy business card with a nice title. You got to show up, do the work, and lead by example every gosh darn day.
I agree. And Eric, you know, you run a global business. In my time at Ingram, I had a global business. You wake up at 4 in the morning and you've got emails and up till, you know, midnight when you go to bed, right? As a challenge. So I'm curious, you know, what are some of your strategies of how you lead your team given the different time zones and the complexities of your business globally?
Yeah, well, there's no great answer to the time zone. You know, we're kind of all victims of that in it. So, you know, the cultural piece is a little bit different in that side. You know, kind of as I've gotten much deeper in the Asian culture in the last 10 years or so, cultures all across Asia are very different. Cultures all across Europe are very different. You have to be very respectful and understanding of those cultures to be successful in them. You can't. It's not kind of a one size fits all in those types of cultures. And kind of more generally in terms of leadership, and I think I just kind of adhere to the Steve Jobs, you know, kind of hire smart people and get out of the way in it. So support them, figure out what they need to be successful, create a picture of success with them that they help shape, and then help them achieve it ultimately. And I think the other side I think about is you got to be willing to do the work. You know, sometimes, you know, we are who we are and we have the titles we have, and sometimes, you know, we need to get out there and show them that, you know, that we can do it with them too, and kind of be on the front line with them. And I think that's where a lot of the respect and kind of teamwork and culture comes from, is being able to go out there and lead from the front when you need to.
Paul, you had mentioned about your weekly call with your team and leadership, and you've kind of had a few CEOs. You kind of stepped aside and you came back in. I mean, what's that process been like?
Yeah, and by the way, it's a daily call. It's not weekly. It's every single day, which I need that. I need it, And I think for me, leadership is, you do it by what you do, not what you say, right? And people are going to be watching you. And I know when I first got out of college, I didn't know anything about anything. And I got lucky. I found this small company that was just getting started up, blah, 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 blah. And there's two owners, and one of the two owners, the guy who's the CEO, this guy Henry Bertolon, he was unlike anybody I've ever met in my life. And he changed me. He taught me so much, and I just watched him. And I remember we took a trip to Asia early on, and we spent every day for 3 weeks together, and I just learned so much. And even to this day, things that I do are based on what I learned from him 35 years ago. And I don't think a lot about, am I being a good leader, and what do I need to do to be a good leader? I just do what I do. And I think if you're good at it and you've had some success, people are just naturally going to follow you. And I think that's kind of what happens.
That makes sense. So listen, I think we've covered, most of the ones that I think add a little bit of meat and potatoes. I'd love to open it up for Q&A. We've got about 15 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions, raise your hand. And I think someone has a microphone they can bring. Brooks? No, this gentleman back here is going to bring you a microphone.
Hi, Brooks Hoffman with Alchemy, formerly Iron Mountain. Know a lot of you and gentlemen on the stage. Todd, you alluded to this a little bit in your opening remarks. You talked about some of the hot topics in the industry, AI, ESG reporting, et cetera. I'd like to get the perspectives of everyone on the stage. What do you think is going to be the most important trend or topic over the next year, 3 years, and 5 years? So sort of a short-term, medium-term, and longer term. And I know you only have 15 minutes, but give it a shot.
Can you give us a longer question with more parts? What is it? Was it back to school? What's the video? I'm going to give you one question in 17 parts with Rodney Dangerfield. Listen, I think AI. I think AI to me is the biggest one, right? And the beauty and the challenge of AI is like it's a kid in the candy store, right? It's almost unlimited things you can do, and you start playing with it, and you see how it can take root in your organization and make changes. And I think the biggest thing that's going to impact all of us to grow your business is on the sales and marketing side of the house, right? You've got to really use those tools in a sophisticated way, because there's a bunch of guys sitting in sweatpants back behind the scenes. They're helping you develop code and AI programs to help you go out there and win the market share. So, we're deploying AI within our business. We're going a little bit cautiously about it. We're not going to deploy it to all of our departments. We're focusing on sales. We're focusing a little bit on the finance team. We also manufacture cables, so we're using AI, for example, to look at our trending of sales and our inventory and what pieces and parts we should be buying to manage that. But listen, the number of applications for AI within your business to make it better, it's almost unlimited. It's actually scary and exciting at the same time. I think the still unknown thing is none of us know that much about AI and all the security risks that come along with it, right? Because you have kind of these closed ecosystems you can work within, but if you're going out to ChatGPT and you're saying, hey, listen, here's my financials, here's my strategy, this, that, and the other, I'm CXtec, guess what? That's now open to the world for the rest of your life, and you've now exposed yourself. So there's some vulnerabilities if you have your employees out there kind of doing that. I mean, we're going to make our associates go through an AI training process and get kind of AI certified before we're even going to give them Copilot, for example, right? And Copilot will stay within your four walls. If you go into a ChatGPT, for example, like I've been doing, I never use our name, but I use ABC Company or whatever that is, but it's going to give you a much broader reach. So I think security that comes along with AI is probably a big frontier. And CXtec, we have a VAR business, so we actually sell security appliances and network and storage, et cetera. So that'll be a big area of focus for us next year, is getting more in the security sector, because I think that section is just going to absolutely explode from a new sale perspective. I don't know what the refurb will look like down the road, but I don't know. What do you think, John?
Well, let's go to Brooks' question and to what you just said, Todd. You're absolutely right. Brooks asked a great question. You're absolutely right. AI is the big thing. But let's talk about vulnerabilities. You could spend as much as you want on AI in every division of your company, but the vulnerability that your company is going to have is what I think is going to become one of the biggest trends in the next 5 years is this. When I was 21 years old, all business was, and I grew up in Manhattan, New York City. All business was done in person. In person. And in person was ubiquitous. It didn't make you special. So post-COVID, if you think about the trend post-COVID, we were already becoming an isolated society. Pre-COVID, because of technology, the business that we're all in. Post-COVID, it only accelerated with the high use of Zoom, Teams, and everything else. The boomerang effect to AI, because AI is going to be now both a curse and a blessing. The blessing is all the things we just discussed, and you laid out, Todd, which is all correct. The curse is we're not going to know what's real or fake anymore with the deep fakes that they've created and how good AI is. So what's going to have the highest value is doing what we're doing here today. Getting on a plane and going to see people face to face. We have a motto at ERI, get your face out of Facebook and go get in someone's face. And you close nose to nose. That's how it's done. It's what's time immemorial succeeded. And so with the rise of AI is going to come concurrently the importance and the rise of doing things in person more than ever before. Kevin and I had dinner with a future partner last night. And we turned to each other during the dinner. And over 22 years, we asked each other, how many times have we checked the travel and entertainment budget and the spend of any of our salespeople? The answer was none, never, never. We say, get on a plane, go take someone to lunch or dinner or coffee, and go close another deal. And that's what's coming. The rise of AI with the rise and importance of doing things in person.
I love it. I hope you're right. I much appreciate that.
Can I just add one thing to that? Because I wanted to say earlier exactly what he just said. The thing that I find most frustrating nowadays as the CEO of a company with a few hundred people, I hate to say it's the young people, because they don't understand the value of relationship. They want to get electronic, text and blah. They don't even do video calls. They're just texting. And I try to explain to them, look, that's not the way to do it. Today, after all these years, at least once a month, twice a month, I have to call in a favor from somebody that I may have not talked to in 20 years. But we've done favors for each other in the past, and they're going to help me out, and they're going to tell me the truth. Oh, you want to find out about this company that's a competitor? You know so-and-so, and he knows it. I mean, that's not going away. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about how AI is going to impact our business, because no matter what the technology is going to be, there's going to be hardware involved, right? And while there's hardware involved, there's going to be an evolution of hardware. There's going to be newer technology, older technology. The services that we offer are going to be in need while I'm still alive, I think. But I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about it. I'm just going to keep doing what I do and adapting to the marketplace. But that's the one thing that I hate, is that, with COVID and people being remote or whatever, I do video calls with people all the time. I get on planes all the time. These are my friends. Don't you want to have friends? And I find the younger generation struggles with that. Yeah. They don't get it. They want to send a text, They want to do a blast email to 500 people to offer some product. And it's like, no. But anyhow, that's my 2 cents on that.
IYK, or IYKYK, Paul. Remember that. That's right. What do you think, Eric?
AI is kind of an unknown. I mean, obviously that's going to be the biggest thing all of us kind of face over the next several years. There's lots of different places that can play. I tend to lean towards the commercial side of things, where I like to spend a lot of my time. So I think about customers evolving, their demands evolving, how AI can help meet those demands, customers are getting more educated. The competition is getting harder in it. So I think we're going to have to use AI to help service our customers better. And what that looks like, I think we're still trying to figure out. The other thing I think is on kind of the other side, on the call it value recovery or remarketing side of things, is my belief is it's a very inefficient way the market works today. It's not bad, but it's just very inefficient. If you look at how stuff got sold before Amazon, now how Amazon does that's coming to our market at some point, and there's going to be a lot more transparency and efficiency that's generated in the market. And I think AI will drive a lot of that. And I think it's going to change a lot of the ways we do business when that happens. And to me, it's not if, it's when. It's coming. It's going to be in the next 3 or 4 years, I'm sure.
I think I've got some perspective on this, and I was talking with Kevin Corrigan, he's in the room, we were talking about this the other day. If you think about, back in the day, if you're in the ITAD business, if you had these really great buyers in Asia, or you had this really great e-commerce store you're selling stuff to, you could actually go out and win more business because you're able to sell the product for more than everybody else. If you look at, you kind of separate the asset classes, get in your distributed assets, your mobile phones, your tablets, your laptops, right? Everybody's going to basically be able to sell those same devices on the same marketplaces for the same price, right? How are you going to be differentiated in that space? Everybody's got the same cost of labor, depending on what market you're in. You got the same insurance costs, the same building costs, all these things. So how are we, or each of us, going to compete against each other and try to show up differently? And you think about even like the data center sector. I was never that deep in the data center where I was before, and now I'm kind of got immersed in this. And even the data center space, this space is getting commoditized because those secret people that we were selling to in Hong Kong or wherever it was, now they're all here at the show, walking around talking to us, right? So I think the playing field of winning just off of value is I would almost say it's almost dead already, right? There's not much more. We do a little things differently at CXtec. We're refurbishing, selling back directly to end users. So we're kind of pulling all those components together in a configured machine, which is different, but there's other people doing it out there too. So, what's going to be your big differentiator in your value proposition to go win new businesses? Is it going to be your technology, your platform, the way you use AI? Maybe you show up to a meeting in person, and that customer really appreciates that. So, Brooks, I think the long-winded answer to your question is, I think it's a big X factor. I think AI is the only one thing I would say for sure is going to disrupt us, but I think there's going to have to be something that shows up that gives someone a competitive advantage of the others. I mean, if I'm a large global client, I'm not going to work with CXtec. I'm probably going to go to a SK Test or to an Iron Mountain or someone who has facilities all over the world that can service me and give me that one throat to choke, or someone like ERI who can give a massive footprint in the U.S. So that's partners to do it, and I'm sure you'll expand globally. But differentiation is going to be a trick in the next 3 to 5 years, I would say. Charlie?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, I would love to see, I work in the data center space, and I also sit on the board of AFCOM. I would love to see you gentlemen very well spoken and polished, but there definitely is a synergy with ITAD and data center. So I came from the bar space. The bar space, now I'm on the other side of it. It works hand in hand. AI is here. It's been here. It started with Bill Gates. I founded a company 4 years ago. It was cybersecurity, more DEI first. But what I'm saying is when I go to all these conferences, it was 30 last year. This year I narrowed it down to 20. The reason why is because I wanted to do the ones that were for me and that are going to benefit me. My company at MedTech, where I'm the Chief Technology Ambassador, we have 4 different divisions. I specialize in resale. This is where the industry is going. I see it with Greg Stover, Bill Kleiman. I go to 7x24 data center world. You gentlemen should be there because you'll get a clearer understanding the way that things are going. We all are going to be busy right now. Next 2 years, we're going to be selling to other countries. They don't have AI. They can't afford it. I'm building with NVIDIA H200 AI servers with super micro brains, and we're selling it as a, downstream. And they're not going through the channel. People are knocking down the data centers from the cement and building AI data centers. So I would love for any of you to talk to me, and I'll tell you the conferences to go to.
I appreciate that.
It's amazing. You'll see Kevin O'Leary. You'll see different people, and it's amazing. I just sit there in awe, but this is the new norm.
Yeah, it's coming hard and fast, right? And I think the number of shows like that are going to continue to expand. And again, I'm fairly new to the data center side of the business, so I'm kind of getting my feet wet, but definitely good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, I guess we nailed it all. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Hope everybody has a great rest of your show. make my belly look? This one, lots of shit, that was the goal. Thank you so much. Appreciate it very much. I gotta get my thumb drive back. Absolutely.